Now we can begin. So, Miss Sandy slipped by today, and we're going to catch up because she's got some things that uh, she's certainly experienced, and it's time for some of that to kind of come out a little bit more. Would that be fair to say?
Well, that is true in the now moment. Absolutely.
Good. I live there. I'm interested in experiencers that are having real time, current experiences, not something that happened a few years ago. Although I can't take anything away, those are relevant. But there's so much going on right now. This is what I want to focus my attention on. It serves as evidence for everybody else who thinks nothing's going on. So, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, kid. And this is your agenda.
Wow, it feels like a heavy responsibility in a moment.
It'll
Um,
just be a flow.
will this be a flow? Because that is, well, first, we also bring in my Andara stone. She will help a lot with helping me bring through what needs to be brought through. Because I just went through a number of your shift watch and watched Yaya and Kuma and some of their information. And so I've just been digesting all that to filter in with what's been coming through for me.
What do
Um,
you think of when you listen to their dialogue? What do you get?
um, the need for me to step up my own taking care of my four bodies, more things to be cleared to step up more. Um, been stepping up a lot over the last, well, since the 2020 thing happened, there was a huge, well, I was starting to shift before that, but there was a huge shift then. There's been a number of shifts since. And energy that came through another group. I got involved in a group and we did some high energy, helping planet kind of things in that group. And that activated my, I'd already been channeling some prior to that 2020 thing, but it shifted into high gear with that group and more things came through. So channeling is something that I have become more accustomed to, more accepting of, and voice is all and sound has always been my thing all my life anyway. So that was probably just going to be a thing. Um, Along with that, I've been tapping into some of the galactic things. Those are past stories that I won't bring in here because I'm still feeling into all that. And then I'm going to hook into how I connected with you because I'm acquainted with Lily Nova through a different group. And she brought you on her channel and you showed the inner earth cards. And I went, what? What? Something interesting about these cards. So I hung on to them. Nothing really activating yet, just giving me a pause for thought, a pause for, let's think more about this inner earth thing, because this isn't the first time I've run across this in the last 60 some years. So we, yeah, I think we're going to just fast forward to this year when I was called to hook up with you at the Journey to Truth conference. And you agreed. And it took a lot just to get me there this year. And a lot of things happened while I was there. But what happened was that connection with you was an opportunity for me to synthesize that which had happened to me, or that had I had a so-called dream in the 1990s, about the diamond core inside of myself. It was a dream shown to me. And now I see that dream as really what was my connection to an aspect of the inner earth, because those pictures in that dream connect. And I was like, whoa. And a Blu-ray is what I was identifying with by the time I met you. And the blue ray inside of myself, the diamond core was blue. And so that inner self connected to that outer inner earth. And then I connected with you and had an opportunity to share that. And unfortunately, I didn't get to watch your presentation there, but I watched after, and many things started to click, 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 click. Oh, things have been clicking all along anyway. But the inner earthing began to ramp up. The telos connection began to become that thing that I was ready to start stepping into. Already doing channeling, already aware of my own inner core, already been doing heart centered work, um, and doing some light language, a lot of song joys. So, and I'm feeling the energy like there's no tomorrow right now. That's why I'm turning red. The stronger the energies, the redder I'll get. It's just the way it seems to go. And this isn't the first time I've encountered it. That group I was with, and then a current friend of mine, energies are real strong too. So, yeah, let's see. Let me take a minute to, to, I have two telos observers that are around me all the time, and they are currently present. Hi, boy, I've just suddenly was like they're just right there. And I don't see them. If I see anything, and I've been doing this all my life, I see them in my mind's eye. If it's a ghost or another being in the house, I see it in my mind's eye. And that's what I'm seeing and feeling. So that brings us to this present moment and my connection to, I don't know if we're ready to talk about that yet, are we? Okay. um,
I'm
so
going to just stop for just a second, let you catch your breath. Only because when you showed me your Andara, I had just before you got started, and I had opened up my phone, it had defaulted to YouTube. And the very first suggestion on my feed was Mickey Magic talking about Andaras. And now Mickey hasn't done any videos about Andaras for at least 3 years. So I found it very interesting today, and you couldn't have been. I think I was the fourth viewer, so I don't know how many people are really going to see it. Nonetheless, he was going through for about 12 minutes the different ones that he had on his back porch. They were talking about alignment of andaras and how they affect your chakras, and he was describing each one he was holding and the beneficiary of each chakra. And all of this is just interesting to me because it coincides with, hey, here's Sandy and Neil. Let me remind you, let me show you my Andara before we begin. Yeah, so they're in my field all the time. And I love it. There is something about them that sets them apart from crystals of other kinds. And I love them all. I appreciate them all. But the difference to me between Andaras that actually hold consciousness and connect to all of their brothers and sisters, quartz, aquamarine, they all work. You imbue them with your intent for their particular purpose, and it's their job to amplify that on your behalf. they've worked like a gem for me forever like that way. And then Andaras came across my path, and when you hold them, that I mean, that's a whole different kind of energy you're talking about, and you just feel connected to lots of other stuff. So I'll go back to you. I just had to mark on my timeline here that little coincidence.
Um, yeah, they interestingly, it wasn't that long ago. I didn't think I was ever going to connect with one. Um, I have a close friend who lives down in Florida. Used to be from the Sierra, Tahoe, whatever region. And she mined different stones, and she has quite a number of Andaras. And she has taught me a lot about meaning and what they are and da 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 da. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to have that kind of connection. Because I was like, I have a lot of crystals and stones here. They're mostly small, but things that have just come to me. And I said, this is the time to have this one. And each one had its own special thing. And my stones, strangely enough, are male and female. Some are male, some are female. Who knows why? It's just the way it rolls here. And so I was just having a vid chat with her a few months back, and she was talking about her Andaras again. She was just showing me all the different Andaras. And she showed me this one, and we immediately started to have a conversation. Oh, hi. And I was doing light language and just, like, hi. Da, da. I was like, ah. And she's very attached to her Andaras. And she's but loving and beautifully allowed to release this one to me because it was time for me to have one. Because
She sounds lovely, and it sounds like she understands that we only steward these things in the first place. Here's how I really feel about crystals of any kind, not just Andaras. Every one of those is a freaking relic. They were here long before we ever got on the planet, and they'll be here long after we leave. But they hold magic that we get to experience while we steward them. If we think we own them because you purchased them in a store, you really need to give that a second thought. People that are guided to get them, they didn't pick them off of eBay. I started there, admittedly, because I didn't know where else to look. Um, when you start to go into crystal shops, they call you. Just like Sandy had suggested a moment ago, they call you and like you're supposed to go with me. But if you've had some, like the first one I ever sought out and I actually bought was a piece of moldavite because I had been told how high vibration it was, and that's what I thought I was seeking. And moldavite's one of those ones that was not originally earth material entirely, and it has the ability to disappear and reappear. And I gave it to my son, and during the time he had it, it disappeared for a 6 month period and
wow.
reappeared. And he is not at this level of awareness that I'm at, but I think that started to make him think that kind of magic and those types of things I had been talking about before, and now they really happened to him.
Wow. I can't think of one song that I've ever gotten that's disappeared on me without me actually losing it.
He
Um,
was, I'll tell you about it really quick because it's really cute and it won't take long. He has a procedure. When he's going to go out of town, he uses the same bag and he puts the same stuff in it. So it's on top of the bed. He's emptied his pockets out, and in there was the moldavite because he carries it with him. It's a pocket piece, and he set it on the bed. Same place he puts it every time he does this with all the other stuff that goes in his pockets. Well, when he got ready to put everything else in his pockets and the bag was done, he couldn't find the moldavite. He looked everywhere, tore the room apart, undid the bed because he thought, well, I don't know how it could, but let me just check. Could not find it. In fact, it took him a couple months to get up the nerve to tell me that he couldn't find it. And when he finally did, I said, they have a way of just moving on to the next place. Sometimes they return, sometimes they don't. So let's jettison ahead about 4 more months. Alex is in the same place, getting ready with the same bag, same way. And at the very end of it, there's the moldavite.
Well, as they say, you can't make this shit up.
No.
Uh, yeah, I had a lot of interesting experiences, but not that one. But that is true, and I was told that as well. So for a while, I watched her. I said, "We disappeared. We just." And if I didn't find her where she was at, I'm like, going, "Where'd you go?" Oh, that's right. I put you over there. So a lot of her actually disappearing is because I moved her somewhere, but no, not actually lost her. Strangely enough, I have been to Sedona. We're going to jump to that for 2 seconds. And I went to a gem shop, tons and tons and tons of rocks all over the place. It's like overwhelmed, no idea what I'm going to get because it's like a cornucopia, and I'm like a kid in the candy store. And this one lone rock out of all of those, and I wasn't even looking for this kind of stone either, was sitting there going, and it was in a wrap at the time. I since then had to get a new wrap for it. And it said, "You need to go home with me." I'm like going, "Hubby, let's go home with me now." That's the only stone I got, and it's been with me ever since. It's had two different names. It's either an amethyst or it's another name that starts with an A, and it's really kind of been difficult to figure out which. And that doesn't matter in this present moment because we'll figure that out later. Anyway, so that was just my little brief off on a tangent with
What?
the
Yeah, I couldn't really tell what color it was,
it's
but it didn't.
tell in this light. It is amethyst colored. It doesn't have whoops, it wants to run around. There's a certain, I think it's possibly a meteorite, but I'm not sure if I've got the right one, but it is an A word that has some red on it. And I've searched high and low. I said, this doesn't have any red on it. So this, because that's how it was sold to me, is that other kind of stone.
Got
And,
it.
and after 2 years later, I'm like going, this doesn't have any red on it. Is that really that stone? And I said, does it matter? No.
No.
One has more abilities necessarily than a purple amethyst, but I don't care. I love purple amethyst and I've got lots of it. So it doesn't matter. It's a stone that's been with me a long time and it's my friend. It's one of my
Well,
there.
I know that there's a lot of citrine that's being sold as citrine that
Mm,
started out as amethyst that somebody heated up too much.
mm,
And then you get some kind of weird, it's not the gold and citrine that you and I are used to when we think of it. There's some kind of in between. It's just taken what was originally a purple um, spike, and now it's trying to be yellow, but it's not.
okay, so this one's going to show up brown because of the light. This was my sister's. It's huge. I can give you that. And it was sold to her as a citrine. And in the light, it is very, very orangey yellow. It's had, I've had it forever. And who knows? Maybe it was an amethyst that turned citrine. Who knows? I love
Maybe.
rock itself, and I can't tell because I'm not a rock hound. So I'd have to ask somebody. I don't worry about that either. She's a beautiful piece. And I do
Right.
actually have no, actually, that isn't like that purple amethyst because I do have a huge purple amethyst that's been molded. Um, and it doesn't look that color at all. So, anywho, citrine is a very interesting animal too, it seems.
Yes.
Well, we could sit here and jabber on and on about stones and rocks, but I got
Back to the matter at hand.
yes, yes. My the other motivation for talk to you, I've got two. I'm thinking we're gonna set one aside and focus on the other one. And it's some questions that has to do with a recent thing that you did with that you put on Shift Watch with Kumu and her um, information, and then Yaye's recent information, and how I'm resonating with that now because we've been talking a lot in the number of years that I've, oh, who cares what time? Time is irrelevant. I will speak in time because we do that, but to me, it's just whatever. Especially since I've retired, times become like, what? What day is it? Okay, so in our inner bodies, we are changing. And I've actually known about that for a lot of years. Back when, back in the beginning of the century, when we thought we were all going to go running off into the, we were all going to, those who were ready were going to ascend now, and the rest of us going to be left. And that never did happen. Well, I'm sure it did happen to some people, just not the way they thought. Anyway, digressing, coming back. So this inner being, this inner self, this inner core, which I've talked about my diamond core being there, and I know that Drumvolo talks about the tiny heart and all this inner workings of the body and the sacred geometry and the toroidal field and that whole ball of wax. And Kuma was starting to talk into um, that one transmission and then one and way back. She was talking about our different the light bodies that we're becoming, the shifting from the other
Carbon to
carbon.
crystalline.
Yes. And that's been something of a conundrum in my world because I'm like, uh, because I somehow embodied into the aging old body paradigm for a while. And
Honey, you're in the same one we're all in.
yeah,
These little avatars are only supposed to last 80 to 100 years.
I know. And I'm like going, well, I'm pushing another 10 or more because they're keeping me around, man. Literally keeping me around. Working with the telos helps a lot in that respect. Um,
You won't have much longer to wait.
I'm we're going to shift to that one now. Shall we shift to that one instead of going that route? Sometimes when I'm in a conversation that's flowing, I'll feel it needs to go this way, and then I'll go, maybe it needs to go that way. So I'm going to shift over to this urgency thing instead because I think it's tied into the new bodies coming in and what Hulu and Yaya have been sharing. I feel we're tied into this whole urgency, and I felt that urgency at the beginning of the century too, when we thought we were all going to ascend, and we didn't in that way.
It's a
Uh,
process.
I
So
know.
I would see it more as though, well, what I felt wasn't, I didn't mistake the feeling. It was just the process was not complete yet.
No. So that is the crux of it for the way showers and the people bringing those up into this and going, okay, you woke up now. Here's what's happening. um, this is our way of letting them know that yes, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of people that I connect with now are really talking a lot about process. It's a process. It's not happening overnight. We're not do that. Even people in the disclosure community who have matured in that area know that this is a process. It's not something that's just going to go boom like we thought it was going to. Everything is process.
Mhm.
Even as I'm sitting on days where I know I'm not even in the 3D. I'm literally walking around 5D. I'm talking in other languages. I'm talking to my cat, and my cat's talking to me. And my husband hasn't had a clue. And he's like, he just kind of laughs because he thinks it's funny sometimes because I'm walking around going, he doesn't have a clue what I'm saying, but he just lets me do it. So um, at first, I thought it was German. Now I think it actually is light language of a sort. So this whole shifting process, especially in the light of our latest solar, I don't really get out. Okay, science has been kind of a conundrum around here because he's big science and I'm big not science. These are the Titans. So finding that middle ground of science, and that, I will credit you and Dave for some other people for helping me see the science in a more quantum way so I can better understand it, but I don't sit and watch solar things like some people do. And I don't sit and watch, oh, where's the, whatever that other thing is that we watch. I don't sit and do that. I run across people.
That's not the space you need to hold. Honey, all you needed to do was understand what those things represent. It's
Yeah,
somebody else's,
there,
it's not a job, not an obligation. Somebody else is monitoring it because it's important. These are, to me, these are little barometers of here's the evidence of what's going on. And when you start to talk about science and trying to connect these things, this cosmic field was what science helped me understand first. After I got the idea that Einstein suggested, the idea of quantum mechanics, and when you focus on something, that's when it becomes, and the observer, that all of that triggered with me. So then understanding the cycles of the cosmos, it was scientists who agreed when I even heard about the 2012 date that they understood the cycles, all three cycles, and they saw it for themselves that at that particular moment, all of those cycles reset. Okay, science taught me something about cosmos that I needed to understand. So now I understand where the influence, this photon energy that's coming our way, where it's coming from, how it's getting to us, how the sun modulates it. We sit on Earth here thinking that, we're just getting battered by the sun. We don't see the big picture on what is really going on here cosmically. And here is where our ascension, Earth's ascension, because there's two things. There's two, our ascension and Earth's ascension. Earth is in a cycle.
yes,
Her ascension is assured, and we're here to be part of it. Now, humans' ascension is a separate animal altogether. We are sentient beings, all with free will and a choice of our own. We're sovereign. We get to make that choice. So, whether we decide we want to raise our vibration to go where the earth is going, our choice. And if we choose not to, that's a choice we get to make too. All
yeah,
I can tell you is when the day comes, there will be a time when that lower vibration is no longer supported. It just entropies away. So, we can have those discussions about metaphysical realities after that. But I'm telling you, now here's where science helped me understand the reality of the cosmos. And while I'm watching the sun's activity, not everybody has to watch it, but I have been. First of all, when I started to get these empathic abilities back, I started feeling these things. And when I was looking at what the sun did that day, there was a freaking correlation. So now when we got back to May, I had already had a history of my body feels when this stuff comes at the planet. So remember in May when there was that sequence of like I think the last two were 8 and 9 that were going off the limb when we had that stream for 4 or 5 days. There were 8 of them. Well, here we are again. This all started again last Wednesday, and we've been going through this roller coaster cycle, and we're not finished. There is a sunspot group. I've never seen one this big that is making its way around the limb and is coming into Earth facing position. We'll just see what happens. But there have been a series of M and near X class flares that have snapped off since last Wednesday, and we're not done.
yes. And along with that will come the body responses in many people, the
Yeah.
uh, And in today's world, it's balancing between, is this an actual flu, or is the what we used to call ascension flu, I believe it's just now our body's response to these shifts in the stratosphere, as well as
Yeah, we're electromagnetic beings and we feel that electromagnetic energy. We know what it means to be connected to everything else. We feel the pulses when they're coming at us.
I grasp the science to that degree, because there are some good ones out there that are embodying both the
Yes.
consciousness and the science. So, Greg Braden and all those, doing very good job getting that out there for the people. Whether you agree with them or not, or like them or not, is not really so relevant. That there are many scientists that aren't as well known as them doing the same. Uh, and so, staying on this track, because it'd be easy for me to go off on that one. Um, the whole feeling of the body, yes, the ascension, the flu, and all these things. But the thing that was coming through for me, if I can hang on, come on, guys, help me keep this thread. Um, is that we are, as physical avatars, we are, see that thread's trying to go away. It's, sometimes my mind does not work as well as it used to. Um, and other times it works like clockwork. So anyway, we'll go off on something else and see if it comes back.
It's cool.
I love
It
that.
happens to me all the time. And, it's not that you lost your thought pattern, it's that your higher aspect has so much it's trying to push through that all of a sudden you get distracted, go down the rabbit hole, and you haven't really completed this thought.
I'll go off into the 3D thing, and they're like going, "Oh, look what you did," and it's like
Yes.
like a bug.
Yes. Believe me, honey, I understand what you're going through.
Seriously, it is very because so many of us are put in a place where there aren't so many of us around us, right? And we've been hearing this, oh, woe is me, nobody that's like me's around me. I can't talk to people at all. And that doesn't matter if you're disclosure, you felt, or the cosmic consciousness thing. We all experience that to one degree or another, and I'm no exception to the rule. I am surrounded by people who don't fully get it, and my husband who gets it up to a point, and then it's like, yeah. So I'm sitting here
You
going,
were gifted with visions of stuff beyond the
I
circle of people that you've been used to.
weird that way. I've been, my daughter and I, we embrace our weirdness. we, we want to wear shirts to embrace your weirdness. I've been strange and bizarre all my life. Thought it was a mental illness at one point. And I have grown. They had that 1987 concordance, and then the 2003 convergence, or those words might be backwards. And I had shifts during both of those.
Yes.
In fact, 87, I got a divorce during that one. So shift happens.
Wow.
Um,
well, it was right on the money, wasn't it?
I moved somewhere else. I'm like going, yikes, what's going to happen with this one? Well, we have integrated so much since then, integrated so much of that. And I credit that diamond core, that connection to source, and my purpose of being here has integrated a lot of that. And all those years, I'm studying these different things, getting college degrees, all kinds of stuff happening, and like a lot of other star seeds, I have my traumas and stuff. But I come into this and I'm like, wow, now you're telling me I'm going to use my communication stuff. Now I got that degree to do that now. Hey, couldn't we have done that 20 years ago when I was a little younger? Um,
No,
we
the
gotta have
lesson of
all the
divine
way about
timing
Facebook.
is a harsh one.
I'm like, oh, you waited this late to do this? It would have been nice
Yeah.
if those people in their 40s, like, can I go to Mount Shasta? Yes, I want to go to Mount Shasta. I want so many places I want to go. Physical body's not quite gonna get me there though. So anyway, that doesn't mean ever. It just means yet. We are in the process. We are. I'm speaking. We are working on me to get to a process where that may occur. I've been out to Sedona, doggone it anyway. Surely I can make it to Shasta somehow.
Mhm.
But I
It's a
also,
different kind of energy.
yeah.
Different. To me, they're both Lemurian hotspots, but Shasta is a much more mature kind of
Mhm,
energy to me. I
mhm,
grew up in the Twin Cities and in Minnesota, and
mhm.
it's probably the best correlation. I grew up in St. Paul, which is old conservative. It's where the state capital is. It's that kind of thinking. And Minneapolis, very young, very cosmopolitan, entirely different. But there's energy between the two that brings them together, and that's how I see Shasta and Sedona. Energetically, they're absolutely connected, absolutely, but they're different kinds of energy.
Yes, very different than the energy along the Mississippi River, which is where I was.
True that.
I was raised by the Mississippi River. I was raised fishing with my papa on the tributaries. Um, I was raised out in the country on, and the area I was raised in is strongly indigenous background history. Chief Blackhawk, the whole 9 yards. You could go out in the field and find an arrowhead, you know. So that indigenous part is actually very strong. Indigenous energy is very strong in my current energetic world. I have channeled indigenous energy. I am connected to people out in Utah who are connected that indigenous. This is and the Journey of Truth have uncovered some things about the indigenous far deeper and far broader than we ever thought was going to be found. And I, during that time, was going, yes, 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 ping, 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 connecting to that energy. See, I personally am not a Native American. I have had past lives with Native Americans. Indeed, in 1990s, had a vision of me in that past life. That was my first experience going, whoa, what was that? And where was I? Kind of thing. So yeah, I grasp that whole broader, where's this going? Bring me back, guys. And
Indigenous.
indigenous, okay. Um, so yeah, we were talking about areas that we were at, and I was raised around that area. So the Mississippi River, the energy along there is different. There are um for a number of years, because I was in YouTube land doing a lot of investigating. A lot of us got buried in YouTube land for a while. I know I did. And then I came out of it.
Agreed. Where else do you go?
So this is where there were people who were putting out information about the different entities, beings, the different things that had been happening along the Mississippi River, why we have so many hauntings on some parts of the Mississippi River, a lot of things that had to do with that huge body of water. Fast forward to my friends, Blu-ray friends, and we're now working with water and and our mission was to heal the water on the planet. Well, we when we go big, we go big. Um, we have since moved on to our own separate things and we're doing our own separate missions, but a lot of it is still water. Today, I am still very much connected with water. The indigenous have had a lot of rituals and ceremonies around water, which I have adapted and created and do song joys with, because I too am here to help heal the water, clear the water, do everything we're supposed to do with water. We are water based beings. We are surrounded by water. Water is a huge thing on this planet, huge, far greater than I think some people have actually grasped.
It's interesting you say that. And I just want to point out, we hear lots of stories about people that have been drawn to areas to help clear. Sedona is one of those. Shasta is one. Australia is one. Egypt's one. Great Britain, Glastonbury, Romania. I mean, I can list them off, but you don't really hear much about people talking about the needs from the water. 70% covering the surface, and the efforts to heal that area too, and pay that kind of attention to that part of Gaia. So I just wanted to kind of frame that up and offer some gratitude, because I really hadn't really heard anybody else remark on the water. I can't, well, I want to, there's one qualifier. And if I could, I think it's Lisa. Lisa and her family, I think the year before last, found herself coming into her state of awareness, living in Missouri. She and her husband and a young child, and she got this inkling to go to Hawaii and help heal.
Mm.
Now, what trying to make that kind of plan ever, got a house to sell there, you got to find a place in the other. Anyhow, it all worked out. And within 6 months, there she was. And she began to, kind of report back on the days she would spend in the water. So it just made me think of what you were talking about and what your experiences were. And I think that we need to lift up, as part of the planet, it's important for us to focus on healing,
Yes.
or that kind of intent for the water as well.
A lot of people, when they reference to water and its healing and so forth, reference to Dr. Emoto. I feel that has been ad nauseum on that one. So I really wanted to bring out that our ability as each individual person, whether we're high viber or medium viber or whatever, you can focus on blessing your water and do all these things. That's all beautiful. But I think we're just limiting it to a glass of water, or no, our bodies, our bodies and our creatures around us, the land, our own personal water, our place where we do waste, anywhere where there is water. Because when I dived into the water part myself, besides the fact that the oceans are our kosh anyway, um, you know, that's a big thing for another day. This whole thing,
Yeah, I almost saw you starting the dialogue. I'm a drop of water and I am the ocean. Don't go there today. That's
no,
another one.
that's the thing. No, we're looking at water being the well, it's what sparks our life. So when I dived into that, I realized that water on a universal level existed as well. Water is far more prevalent in the cosmos than we realize. Um, the source of all that is would say water is the thing, along with the electromagnetics and everything like that. And when we think about the let's just toss into the galactic thing for a second, with the electromagnetics or the electricity and the water. We notice a lot of UFOs come up from the water and different things like that. They're up in the clouds. Water purportedly exists up there as well. I beg the question, because there is a bit of a latent journalist in me, because of my background. I beg the question that those galactics are not, because a lot of their craft may be organic, are utilizing the water in the atmosphere as well. So there's a whole whole lot that hasn't been explored in that one. I haven't heard people talking about it much, but it's something that's come up for me recently, and I'm like, that's
It's
interesting.
interesting.
But there's so many things. I'm an eclectic person. I love getting into anything. So that's why I have to stay. So much to talk about. So I wanted to touch base on that. I we talked a little bit on the body changes. That was a question or a comment or a thing that I was going to explore. And let's see, was there another thing we were going to explore that I was going to ask about? Yeah, had to do with channeling, and I think that might be more personal. So currently, where I'm at is bringing sound and song to people and things like that. And I might be one of those folks that are. Oh, I was talking. I'm going to swing back to that thing I didn't complete. People are placed in different places on the planet to do their um, mission. Some people do a lot of traveling. Some of us just stay in one spot, hold
Yes.
that. And I have been feeling lately that maybe I'm one of those people that sits in that spot, holds that line until it's time for me to move. So, and for whatever reasons, now I could have went to China in my 40s. I could have been a contender, but I did not. I stayed planted here and planted in the Midwest in these two states. For whatever reasons, I'm staying here. I'm like this homebody that must stay here. It's like the channel of light saying, "This is where you're going to be, and this is what we want you to do. So you have to stay there to do it. Because if you go off to, like, I was going to go to Colorado. In fact, 2007, I had a choice: stay in Colorado or come back here. I came back here." So I had a lot of those kind of choices. Um, and that was my brother said stay out here, but then the fires came after that, and I was like kind of glad I didn't stay there. Um, and come back here where we don't have those. We have other things here, just no fires. So that is a lot of us are just staying in place. Some are nobody even knows what they're doing, and some people have no idea what they're doing at all, but they're doing it
Right.
anyway. So I've been on all those different stages. Now in the fully embodied, fully synergistic, fully no more than I ever thought I was going to ever know space. To the point where a shift is in the offing for me physically from living space. And I don't know how that's going to present itself. But I will say I have been enjoying and activated to some degree by listening to some of the people that you've had on your channel, and I've briefly commented with a gal in one of your shift watches that a bunch of us could get together and congeal. It's like this group is supposed to come together, and
Well, it is.
but I
Do
don't know.
you think that when you connected to me, you just found a whole bunch of other tribes that you're unaware of right now? But you know all these people, and the beauty is that, man, we get to see all their gifts pulled together. Watch what we can do now. I wanted to touch on the remarks you made because they're indicative of every light worker that I've come across. You don't really get to appreciate where you are and what you've done until you get down the road a little bit and you get to look back.
Mm,
Then you start to ask yourself, well, why was I in that spot? And you'll remember some things that were metaphysically memorable as
Mm.
opposed to all the other things in the 3D world that make us remember the places we've been. There was a purpose that you served while you were there. And then you start to understand, well, I stayed there for a long time. There must have been a reason for it. Now, there's always some rationale looking back at the decisions we've made. But until we get to this part of our life, which is almost the end, in this particular incarnation, we had no awareness of any of that. And you got to wonder how many other people are wandering around on the planet, clueless to the conditions and the energies that are changing around us, so that the awareness we've grown into and we know what's going on, they're still clueless to.
Hence, we dive a little bit into the bifurcation kind of thing that's bandied about these days. The change from those who will stay in the through third dimension, third density, however you want to say that, and those who will shift not to fourth density because you don't want to go there. That's where a
It's
lot
just a holding zone. That's the astral plane.
where all kinds of crap happens.
Yeah.
But if you move in a different frequency other than that, because I was in that 4D for a time, and I had all kinds of weird and interesting situations. Not as weird as some people's, weird enough for me. Um, so dark energies and stuff like that. Yeah, my teenager, a dark energy. Yeah. So
That's not, just to correct it, honey, that was not fourth dimensional. There isn't any negative energy that frequents at that vibration level. You can get it in this third dimensional zone, but you're not going to have dark energies in the astral plane.
I'm my old paradigm 20th century thinking is still in the process of being
Mm-hmm.
rebuilt.
And don't get me there. We're still living 3D lives, and we still have those reflexes.
I got it.
Yeah,
the, the
but
person
here the beauty is, honey, you get to see the stuff beyond it and communicate that stuff and discern it. But that's the blessing and the curse that you and I get to go through, is we get to experience both of these realms at the same time. So my reflexes is always 3D. Yeah, and I can't say I'm not afraid of anything anymore, but I can be startled and unsettled. And then there's the higher dimensional aspect of things that you see now, that you always see things from two perspectives now. What I was used to and conditioned to seeing, like everybody else around me, and then what my higher self says. Here's what you see when you look at this situation. And man, it's
and to,
almost like you got to play out two scenarios all the time.
and to be reminded that because it looks ugly and freaky doesn't mean it's bad.
Everything is a lesson.
Situations like
Everything is a lesson, and they're not bad. Some of
yeah,
the outcomes won't necessarily be pleasant, but there's nothing wrong about you evolving. And when you go through some lousy experience that nobody else did, you signed up for that lesson, and
oh,
you did it on our behalf to help
you're welcome.
source know what that was like, the lousy part and the good part. And thank you that you were the one that went through it and the rest of us didn't have to. But that's kind of how it works. And it doesn't make people bad. Mistakes are not mistakes, they're lessons, and they're valuable lessons, because even the shitty stuff has lessons in it for us all.
Case in point, and it is an old 20th century story, but it'll be my case in point because it was one of those experiences that taught me a lot. And it's informing my now. Is that there, Charles Manson? Oh, people think he's god awful, he's evil, and all that. Back in the day when he was really big in the news and everything, for the second or third or fourth time, who knows what, my heart space was open and it was saying, mm-mm, he's not. He might be deluded. He did some god awful things, which is going to create some shit of karma. So, pardon my cussing. Um, some heck of a lot of karma's going on there for that guy. Um, but I did not see him as ultimately evil. I have seen videos of some serial killers that we might perceive as evil because there's nobody home, nobody there, not good or bad, just nobody there. So I'm reminded that he's simply, and I was then too, he's simply an aspect. He's an aspect of all of us and all those. That's when I came to that
Hmm.
of I, that you come to that place where you could do some of these bad things yourself, and you have to kind of admit that to yourself that maybe you could be that god awful person too. That
You
was
know, we're here in a land of duality. And man, have we seen extremes.
aware of that, aware
But
of
your point is valid, and I want to underscore it. Once that other aspect, that higher aspect I was just talking about that you and I get to share, that's the part where we know we're connected to everybody else, even the guys that have done shitty things.
yeah.
So, I didn't choose their life and I'm not following their journey. It's not for me, but I didn't make those choices and I didn't sign up for their lessons. So I don't know what they're up to. And now I still think I hold out hope for everybody. Uh, I kind of got a validation over the last few days of when the shift ends, how many souls are really left on the planet? And it's closer to half than I thought it was going to be. I really, at first, when I got a sense of the nature of the shift, when it was going to happen, and all this sunk in a couple of years ago, the case had been made, and I believed it, that about 40% of us were going to evolve and ascend with the planet. Then over time, I had higher hope. And it just seemed like the number, no, it's got to be closer to 80, maybe 90% of people. And in the last few days, no, it's more like half. The earth, when she's finished in this shift, she is vibrating at a frequency that these people that are living in a third dimensional world haven't reached that level, that frequency. They're not there. So when earth no longer supports it, there's nowhere else to play out your third dimensional lessons because she doesn't support that frequency anymore. There'll be alternatives for your soul to finish playing those things out. And the reason I said I held hope out for everybody else is when I had a little more detail, more of the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed on the physical changes on the planet when ascension takes place. Um, there is a window of time at the end of this third dimensional reality. I'm under the impression it's a 15-day window. So even if people had no idea of what the hell was going on, if they get some sense of it then, they can choose to ascend. They're not without remedy. Now I can't speak to their karmic load because that's on you. And you've got to sort that out and make sure that you vibrate at a level consistent with Earth. That's why people like you and I are talking about the way that we do to get other people's attention. Not that I'm going to change any of you, but something hopefully will trigger and you're going to figure it out for yourself. So when the day comes that you wish you vibrated at another level, we gave you the signal long ago and you paid attention.
This is true. There are still moments of wandering and doubt, and that's probably because of the process that I'm going through here. Um, and I get a sense that we're not I'm going to come at it from this direction. There's this initiation stage, the prana initiations that's been put out there, and each being, each soul goes through different levels of initiation, and those are very can be very complicated and very many steps to those each initiation. And there's, I think there's seven or more. And those who reach that upper level actually get into, those are the ones that you see in history become the rainbow body. They basically disappear. Their physical avatar just basically fades and they're just light.
Their
Um,
light form. Yeah.
and there are some that have been recorded in history that have reached that level. And as I have been on this path in the last few years, and when I got in with that group, that's when they turned me on to this actually. And I started looking at and seeing, oh, I see some people around me. Now, a lot of people I know are not, like I said, by me. They're all on Zoom or video chat or phone or some other YouTube, some other way of connecting because of the things that have happened and because of the way my life is. So there's no blame, shame. It's just the way it is.
Hmm.
So um, I'm like, now I have heard some people talking in some of their, one-on-one, like this on a Zoom. And this one gal, it was during that time when people started talking about people around them disappearing. Pe- People just, they weren't there anymore. They didn't die. They didn't move away. They just weren't there anymore. And so I started hearing a few more stories of different starseed light workers, wayshowers, healers, um, the wonderful labels that we give ourselves, talking about this. People who have just reached that level of frequency or initiation, however you want to look at that, both going on possibly, um, that they just simply, they're not in light body yet, but they're in the world, but not of the world. I think that is now making sense to me suddenly.
It
Um,
does. There was a producer that was working on something they were going to pitch to Discovery Plus. And he reached out to me because he knew I had experience in Shasta. And the focus of the story was on disappearances in Mount Shasta.
oh,
Well, that didn't resonate with me, but it gave me, it was, made me pause to think about that for a moment. And when I had the experience I had, you know, I came back because I didn't know where else to go. But you got to wonder people's vibration when they find their way there. And I know lots of people have found their way to inner earth, whether it was Telos or not, wherever it was. You got to
yeah.
wonder how many people decide to just stay because there's not any of this white noise anymore there. The more time I spend in these higher realms, the less inclined I am to come back. So I totally understand what they're thinking. And
Yeah.
it's damn likely that there's a lot of us that are waiting on this other realm for us to show up because when they got there, it was better than this.
Yeah, I've actually got a good friend that I feel things have shifted with her a lot again, and we're not connecting as much. And she's a golden light body, um, Atlantis and Lemurian connection. We've had lifetimes together, and I feel she could just shift right out of my existence, just shift right out.
Well, out of your third dimensional existence, let me remind you when you boost back up to the next realm, everybody's waiting there for you.
I we well, I was told a long time ago that all of us who met in that group had actually been meeting up on the ships together, that we knew each other that way as well. Um,
Yeah.
this galactic connection, and I was like, I'm down for that because y'all seem pretty dang familiar to me for some reason, and we had all these things that kept connecting us. So, and a couple of them were strong psychics, that really multidimensional psychics. Well, one from Australia, she's multidimensional, a lot of things. Um, and so, yeah, I could see that. I could see that there are feel, words, express. Now, sometimes I want to express feel, sometimes I want to express see. Um, I'm getting off on a tangent. Sorry. So yeah, so I feel that as we go through these shifts, because as you said, and not just you said, but I've had another person who strong psychic who has dived deeply into the ascension of the planets, not just Mother Earth, but the planets are ascending. Well, things have
Yes,
happened before. We're on another cycle, and everybody that's anybody saying this cycle, not like any cycle before. We don't know exactly what's happening next.
correct.
So
That's absolutely correct.
we're like stumbling around in the light going, I can use the word park. I'm stumbling around in the light going, the light's on, but I don't know where to go. Or what do I do next? Or, oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to do next. And then you forgot the next minute what you were going to do. Or maybe that's just me. But I know there are others talking about it too. So as we all connect and share our experiences, we realize, wow, other people are having that too. The people disappearing on people, the people who are connecting with the water, people who are connecting with the galactics. By the way, I too connect with them in my own way, and I just had a ship near my house just a couple days ago. So um, and I thought, oh, and they wanted to make sure I knew too, by the way, because I had some doubts about it. And they said, yeah, we're just going to show her so she has no doubt. There you go.
Yeah.
And my Andara says, look what they're doing. And she's kind of laughing. My Andara, by the way, she has a name, but I haven't got it memorized yet. It's kind of hard to say.
Ah,
Um, so she gave it to him music because I couldn't figure it out because it's more like a light language name. Um, and she said, "Oh, look at there. They're up there." And you didn't think so. But she's elemental. She's because she and I, gonna dare to say this, YouTube and whatever, Zoom, whatever, I'm just gonna dare to say it. We had connection with the Fey realm in the inner earth. So where you guys are at in Shasta with the Fey, the that place that you hiked to that has that waterfall and the stream and all that. And I said I saw Faye in your video pictures. And then Lily and Robert were out there sharing pictures, and I'm like going, oh, the Faye are still there, and I see a couple by you, and I see a couple by you.
yeah. That I
That was off the charts.
it just warmed my heart to watch Lily and Robert and Katie and the group that they were with because I've been talking about this for a while. Got people pumped up to go there, and I said, I can show you where these energetic places exist, and then it's up to you to have your own experiences. Well, they proved me right. They even documented the damn things. They got craft going into the mountain, and they found some other, lenticular cloud formations over the mountain. Now, that's I use that word so everybody can associate with it. But when you don't see any clouds anywhere else, and they seem to be in that pattern over it. And then you begin to see these energetic spots and you see them on the mountain. Now you know what that stuff really is. And the fact that the veil is thinning so much and we're seeing more of this real time stuff, that ought to tell you that things are changing.
Yeah, they have been, and well, for some of us more than quicker than others because some of us have had received those insights. You can talk about the 10th
We
insight.
have to pay attention to it or you'll miss it for certain because it's going on around us all the time.
Yeah, to be honest with you, some days I don't think I see any craft at all, even though there's tons of clouds. And other days I'm like, oh, I guess there's one after all. So, then that depends on where my vibration is at that point.
Right.
Because vibrations, the thing, vibrations aren't static. It's like,
No.
so you look at this so-called pen, which appears to be pencil, appears to be completely solid. It's not. It's molecules. It's not. And with the proper understanding, we could probably make this become not here. This is where we're headed. I am hearing more and more about people experiencing telepathic things. Now, mothers have had that kind of psychic sense for a long time. You call it psychic sense, but in a sense, it's actually telepathic energetic. And now we're talking about people actually experiencing telepathy between each other. Now, this is not talked about and bandied about a lot, but my friend Gwen, who goes into all kinds of realms of fifth dimension and greater, we've bandied about that some because I feel, well, the generations coming up already have it. They don't even have to
Oh,
look.
yeah.
It's just there.
Yeah.
But for us, those who will continue to stay here and do our work for a time will begin to experience that more often. Um, we will say it's more people have clairs and that their clairs are coming online, and that is
Yes.
because
That's true. And that's a good point to make because I wasn't aware of any of those things. And while you're describing these telekinetic connections to others, I watched it with me and Dave Wallace morph over a couple years' time. And now, over the last several months, we giggle because I know when he's going to call, and he knows when I'm going to call. It just, we laugh about it now, but there's something going on in our field and it's overlapped. And there's a reason for us to communicate. And it's always like the signal went out.
yeah,
And I think the more you focus on it, the more it fine tunes itself.
yes.
And then all you have to do is find the rest of your tribe that vibrates at a level that you can connect with like that too. And then when you started to talk about your Andara and the name and how it was probably, like this little musical chord instead, I resonate with that entirely. I think we're going to be less dependent on words and sentences and paragraphs, and we're going to communicate things in symbols and sounds and colors and light.
I think that's so fun because I grew up all my life loving words and sound. See, and I guess I do have a love affair with words, and I do like to play with them a lot. And that's why I digress in my conversation sometimes because a word will get my attention and go, oh, let's play with that for a while. And plus,
That's the
it
space you
people
hold.
annoys a lot of people, to be honest with you. But especially family members, but that's beside the point. Yeah, sound and light. I almost did a light language writing, something I hadn't done yet. Um, I do it in sound, I can do it spontaneously around the house when I'm experiencing certain feelings and stuff. I'll just break into light language, and my light language isn't always nice. So, yeah, well, we'll find out what that's going to be. We'll get answers eventually. They'll tell me when I'm ready.
Mhm.
So, yes, words will be used less. Words will be. This is why I believe we're banding around so much in so many different groups about words being spells. I think it's because all of the groups, and I tend to be involved in a divergent number of groups. You have certain people are this group and this is what they're in, and this is what they're doing. Not me. I'm just all over the place. Um, and what I find in those is I find those common threads and I start weaving them. And then I'm like going, oh, so that's what's going on. And so this is where we are. And I see that a lot. I see the words are spells is really strong right now because it's tied.
Absolutely, positively. Words have power. And, people that understand clickbaiting, they understand how to get your attention. And it pisses me off when I see it. It wasn't that I didn't appreciate it, because I certainly understood that from a marketing perspective as I went through my corporate career. So, yeah, I see what you're doing because I was pretty good at it when I did it myself, but I see it for what it is. And to try and charge somebody's emotions to get them to believe something you want them to believe, now you've crossed the line with me to begin with, because you've stepped on their sovereignty, which means that you're willing to step on mine.
Yeah, we did that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, my background is in marketing, parks, rec, and communication and broadcasting. I was a multidisciplinary person.
Mm.
Communication was the biggest part, and system communication became my dream. And then it became expanded from there because its communication is even bigger than systems. And that's why I kind of grasped the different communication amid systems because, geez, there's just so much there. And we're revealing so much of it. And
Yes, honey. We were shown how to use those tools because they're going to come in handy right now. Those ways that we were shown how to get the right people's attention, yeah, we honed those to a fine point long ago. So right now, we can get this message to our target audience without, well, we know what we're doing. Let's just say that.
right.
Yeah.
There are moments when in your little tiny corner and like going, who's it? Well, I have this little tiny YouTube channel that's beginning to blossom a little bit, but not very many people know about it because I'm still working on it. And so I'm like, I was told I'm supposed to start putting this out, right?
Yes.
I,
The
I think
clock is ticking, kid.
I came out of that private group. I started channeling with my friend, so I am publicly outed. I talked about my black stuff on somebody's channel, and I'm outed to a lot of people within the community. Um, but now everybody needs to just know this is what I am.
Yeah.
And again, that I feel is why I may be shifting in where I live. It's not necessarily going to go down well here. So, yeah, the throat chakra is so important in the last 5 or more years for us to get our voice back.
Yes.
Those of us who had past life as witches had our voice shut off. Those who were in those end times with the Lemurian voices shut off. Many of us have come in a little afraid to voice for fear of
It's
being.
interesting you say that. Yaya had made that observation. It was the third of the four transmissions I'd been with through her. And she was trying to, during this light language transmission, she was trying to get me to say something. And
Mm,
I just wouldn't do it. it wasn't, and I didn't want to fake saying this word. I just couldn't. And
Mm,
along the way, before the transmission was over, she made an observation. And she said, well, clearly something happened in a past life that cost you your life with what you said. And that's why you're reluctant to open up your mouth and say it again.
hmm hmm
Now, I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but it certainly made sense. And it woke me up.
Well, there are many people on the YouTube and Facebook land who are finally speaking out. Damn the torpedoes. And yeah, they're not being killed. No, instead of killing us off, although they're still doing that, they're killing our voice. They're
That might have been truer. I
using
want to
all
say
known
that
to
over
us.
the
This cannot shut
it's
energy. It's there.
it's
Sorry.
it's yeah, I can't deny that there's there's energies against this effort for sure, but I just see it like it's there's so much of it that they can't keep up with it, and they're going to be overwhelmed by the message. I'm surprised because I've had Dave Wallace can be interesting to listen to.
Oh, I know.
And I wondered whether one of those might ever get pulled down, or none of my stuff over all this time that I've been putting it out has ever been suspect to ever being pulled down. Now, I made sure that the message that I put out there um, is carefully worded and always um, optimistic. Always. Even
Uh,
if I have to tell you some lousy news, I'm going to figure out a way to spin it so that it comes across in a way that's palpable for you, palatable. Um, that I understand what we were talking about a moment ago with how words can be charged. So you're not going to see me use those headlines to get your attention on something that I want to create drama for. You're not going to get that here. There's no time for me to play with any of that anymore. There's too much importance on me helping others understand this measure of light that's coming at the planet and changing everything that's sentient on it, including us. That's
yeah.
where my focus is going to be.
Yes.
So you guys can all spend your time somewhere else on what you want. I know what's coming, and it certainly blows away all this other white noise.
Mhm. I hear you, and I've had a lot of pointed directions here about distractions. Uh, 6 months of saying that's a distraction, that's a distraction, that's a distraction. Okay, I got the message already. It's a distraction. Um, but I hear what you're saying, and measuring my words. Like on my channel, I measure my words, and like you said, I really mindfully watch where I land things on my channel because I don't always do that face to face outside of like something like this. I might, whoops, I said that, didn't I? And I have
Well,
people
I
who,
know what my history had been listening to others. And so that's always my benchmark when it's over. I wonder, after somebody listened to an exchange with me and somebody else, did it raise your vibration or did it lower it? That's my benchmark. If
mm,
I think when I listened to it, I felt good listening to it and I got something out of it, great, mission accomplished. If I went the other direction at all, you should stop listening to me immediately.
well, sincerely, a lot of people don't realize that they're bringing their egos in.
True.
They, I really felt that your intent and your motivation, open-hearted and not for personal gain. It's not for
No,
personal gain.
no.
It's greater for the greater good. And most of those I listen to anymore, that is their motivation. That is where they're coming from. Now, yeah, I get in and I listen to some of the others and every now and again because I feel like they've got something I need to hear for
Yes.
me. And sometimes I'll go, well, that was a waste of time. Let's not do that anymore. Um, And there are those I'm actually feeling like they're going to start dropping, like I've stopped listening to some people over the years because I just don't resonate anymore. It's not there. And I really felt that they were telling me you need to focus more on getting, you've been listening a lot. Now it's time to speak. And
Yeah,
close friends are saying,
that's
Andy, it's about time you start.
yes. It's kind of that acclimation period. I spent like you hours and hours and hours and hours listening to different resources on YouTube because I didn't know where else to go. I wasn't really a reader, so I wasn't going to buy books. Give it to me in multimedia fashion, and that's how you get to me best. So narrate the story and show me some pictures along the way. Um, there there were though I went through early Abraham Hicks, and I'm not taking anything away from her. Um, but I understand her message and I've heard it and I agree with it. I don't need to hear it again. I need to go to figure out how I take the information I got there and use that in my cycle because I'm not living her life and she's not living mine. That's why when I think of sporting events, and I was an athlete and I was a pretty good athlete. So I got to play in front of some pretty big crowds and I was a referee for a long time. Anyway, um, as I watch that phenomenon go on right now, I look at all the people in the stands wondering, don't you have lives to live of your own? You're all here watching these 22 people on the field. What are you doing other than cheering them on? What happened to your part of the life? And it's soured me on athletics and the competitive nature of all of that. And it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. Absolutely enjoyed it, but I didn't understand the nature of the competition. Hockey was a great game for me because what it taught me was teamwork.
Mm.
I was able to play under some amazing coaches. Herbie Brooks was one who had some influence, and he taught us how to play keep away. If those five guys on the ice could keep the puck between them, the other team can't score. It was a brilliant thing. And so the moment you were at a man disadvantage, one of your players committed a penalty, his penalty box. Now you know what it's like to play with some with a bigger team, and now you have to defend against that. Really, your ideas of offense have kind of gone out because you just need to defend your area. Now you understand the importance of every member of the team. And when you all come together, what you can accomplish cohesively that one person on the rink can't do. It was amazing to me. I learned that kind of teamwork revelation thing. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy individual sports. I enjoyed golf and tennis was okay, but it wasn't like the same juice you got on the ice with the rest of your team when this was all over because you knew everybody had to play a part in it. It was awesome.
Oh, oh no. Oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge sport fan. Give me a horse and I'm good. Horses were
Yeah.
my so I think with horses it was more that relationship with that beast and the communication between you and that beast and the taking care of the beast. And I think there was a lot of lesson I guess I learned there. I learned at an early age you can get bucked off, but you can get right back on. Until I reached an age where getting bucked off really hurt. And it was like,
Yep.
now, and my back speaks every moment of it. So every moment of all those times I got thrown. So, but yeah, the um, the world stage. What is the stage? A friend of mine. We're talking a lot about the stage and how we play on the stage, and what she and I do is we play in the energy, which is another stage of itself. Um, the stage is playing out as it's supposed to with lots of fun, what I like is there's a lot of fun surprises. Things come along that because we have self will and we have timeline shifts and you got different things like that, and the energy shifts this way and shifts that way, and we're not sitting on solid rock anymore. We're now on shifty sand. And so the surprises, the some are a lot of fun. Some are not so fun, but most of them are a lot of fun. So, like tonight, I wasn't sure what we were going to be talking about. So I have my notes, right? I'm like, hardly even looking at stupid things. Because happen and you allow for the flow. And what do I do? Listen to
Right.
a song that says flow every day. So what am I going to get? Flow. Because it's about words. We come back to words again, which is my jam. So,
Anything else you want to cover, or
I
almost 90 minutes in?
know. Doesn't take much for me to talk the world away,
Well,
but
honey, this won't be the last time we'll do this because I have a feeling that you're kind of reaching into some new upgrades and you're leveling up. And there's going to be other things that you need to share about what your new reality is like.
yeah,
Yeah,
as I shift and I don't know what's going to happen. See, here's the thing. I said I want if there's going to be a shift here in my relationship environment, I was going to hold that this was going to be one of those shifts which was going to be um what's the word? The best for the both of us. It was no longer going to be a catalyst or something awful had to happen for that shift to happen anymore. The intent has been set that if there is going to be a shift and change in this relationship, it will be one of intent and of mutual decision, not
wonderful.
as
It
before.
doesn't make people bad people.
This is I feel that a way of breaking that past life thing that I've been playing out to to clearing out all the karma and clearing out the things so that when I return, um, I won't be carrying all that baggage with me anymore. And
Yes,
um, and we didn't want it to be. We could have. There were a number of exit points where I could have made it a thing and left, using that as a reason why I left. I absolutely. The interesting thing is, I have absolutely no reason to leave here. I have a man who treats me well, which a lot of women don't. And I've had those kind. Well, I've had one kind, and then met a lot of the other kinds. Just never hooked with them. So this is I don't know how it's going to look or feel. And I said, and I don't even know if it's absolutely supposed to happen. Even that's how shifty things are. It's like one minute I'm like going, I think we're going to do this, and then they'll talk to me 2, 3 weeks later, and I'm like going, shift ain't happening now. Things are all right at the moment. So I'm just like, this is my life embodying what's happening on the planet. Woo! This is exciting.
right.
Um, and scary, and well, there's still a certain level of scary with the unknown, but um, I've landed on my feet pretty much the majority of my life. Hasn't always been pleasant when I landed on my feet, but I've landed on them. And I've always had everything I've needed provided for me. Always. Whether I deserve it or not, that doesn't even matter. It wasn't about deserved. It was
Right.
about just simply, this is the choices you made and it led you to that. And, go from there. Simply wanting just the intent for so many of us to release the karma, to release the traumas, to let go of the 20th century idea that things have to be in this way. They're just
I
not.
don't
They just aren't anymore.
I
Just
don't know the details of your situation, and it's not important that I do. But it did make me think this is about karmic balance right now. for you and him. And that, in the scheme of things, is the underlying more important thing right now energetically than, the 3D emotions we're trying to untangle. Yeah, I love the idea that at the end of this, there aren't any bad people. We have different interests. And if we believe that we're evolving, that isn't really that strange a concept for any of us to embrace. Yeah, as our lives go on, I've been married a few times, and my interests varied from my wife's as things went along. Of course, they did. She was evolving as just like I was, and it developed new interests. That doesn't make people bad. It
No,
just their journey is now no longer going to parallel yours.
um,
Keep your karmic load, send them with light and love, and they'll do the same for you.
and sincerely, I say this for because anybody listening might receive this is that not only will we, well, I, or I guess I'll speak for me, um, should things move on and shift to the point where I make that decision and actually do the physical action to follow through, um, I felt that in some way I would be releasing him to allow him to evolve in a way that maybe together we cannot.
Good for you.
So many people are saying, well, you don't have to leave people to evolve. You can have that person living with you and do this, and you can evolve just fine on your own. And I've been living that and embodying that. I know what that feels like. There are some things that are telling me that his plan, my plan, at this point, are not going in the same direction. And I could just as easily just say, I could just go ahead. Wait, this one person says, is this a 10 for you or is this not a 10 for you? You want to choose tens in your life. I said, well, is that a 10 for me? Well, I was looking at, well, if I did choose that as a 10 and then settled for a 5 when I left, what the heck's happening there? So, but
Yeah,
that's,
you didn't trade up.
I'm not trading, I'm considering trading anything.
It's not about trading at all. Anyway.
It's not, it has
All
nothing.
right, kid. I got to blow.
Yeah. So we'll just cancel. No, we're not canceling that. What the heck? Words. Um, we are releasing at this point
Yeah.
because we both have lives and it's getting late. It
All
is
right.
very extremely heavy energetically here.
I'll yeah. Well, I'm sending you love and light. I'll have this downloaded and I'll put it up. I probably won't get till tomorrow because it'll take an hour for it to download. But I'll send you the link, and it'll be unlisted for now, so that you can look at it and I can look at it. And if you decide that you want to share it later, then you can let me know that, and we'll open it up for others. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All
And
right. Have a good evening, sweetie. Thank you for your time.
thank you for